Chat, make sure everybody can hear me okay. My name is Chris Young, and today we're going to be delving into the OSINT Con privilege that we have to connect and network today. I'm going to be giving a little bit different of an angle of something in the scope of cybersecurity, hybriding a little bit with digital marketing. And what we're going to be doing is all right. What we're going to be doing is looking at something that's really going to help you to differentiate yourself in the marketplace, something that a lot of people are not talking about, whether it's OSINT or otherwise. It's actually going to be something called, okay, thank you very much. I see in the chat. Thank you for the feedback. Appreciate y'all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be. Um, Something that a lot of people are not talking about, but I think should, because especially in cybersecurity, or if you're an OSINT and you're doing some research, it's important to look at things that are valuable, things that you want to protect, things that or threats that you're looking at. And so today we're going to be looking at something that really is an avenue that helps businesses to be able to generate results, generate leads, and basically for some companies, this is the lifeblood of their business, is search engine optimization. Now, I know up front, no business owner cares where they are ranked in Google. I've been doing this for 20 years before I got into cybersecurity and OSINT, and not one that I've talked to in all my years cares where they're ranked in Google, but everyone wants the result that everybody and their grandmother is talking about from being at the top of Google, which is a ringing phone, more calls, more form submits, more attention online. And the next step to do that is understand how to get to the top of search, which will then inspire you to understand what to look at to help fortify your expanding digital footprint. Now, I already understand there's a lot of people in the marketplace that are trying to pitch and sell this and say, hey, here's the hot tip and trick. Here's the reality. You need to test something and do it for long enough in order to get enough data to decide if this is something worthwhile for you. So at the end of the day, it's going to take an investment of time, energy, effort, and in some cases, even funding in order to find out what's going to work for the company. A lot of companies who actually understand this methodology are going to spend a lot of money in this, and you'll see a spreadsheet of some money that I've been given to help contribute to a company's online presence in search engine optimization, ranking in Google, trying to rank higher, get more attention, and ideally be first to be considered first in the marketplace for their target market. Why am I saying all this? Because if you don't understand the groundwork of it, then the back end of this, how to protect against these vulnerabilities, is not going to make a lot of sense. But here's the good news. I'm going to oversimplify it for you, okay? This is going to be accessible for people who are not very technical. For people who are technical, you'll be able to deep dive a little bit and see some insights that I'm trying to convey. I am a certified ethical hacker, have another certification in network defense architect. I have some other certifications. At the end of the day, I'm more interested in what you're going to get out of this instead of flexing on you and saying, look at how great I am. Okay. This is not about me. This is about you and empowering you to go back to your companies and say, hey, I think we need to have a conversation about this. Okay. So, oops, different thing. Before we get in, just by way of announcements, if anybody is interested in presenting talks like this, or you want to get on stages, whether virtually or in person, if you want to do an international thing, nationally, maybe something regional or in your state or in your county, even in your city, locally for you. Um, I actually have co-founded a group over at the Simply Cyber Discord. This is something that Dr. Ozier, who has been in cybersecurity for a number of years, he has paved a way and an opportunity for me to jump in and participate a little bit. And banking on my background in digital marketing, public speaking, performance art, I've been a dancer, drummer, singer, and actor, at least professionally since the age of 10. And I started touring at the age of 14. I'm clearly older than that now, but all this aspect and experience that I have in presenting in front of a large volume of people, this is just another day at the office for me. I'm more interested in having a direct conversation with you. Yes, you listening to this right now. I want you to take out some resource so you can be able to take notes. But to get to this position was not something that happened for me overnight. Okay. I'm still a little bit nervous, to be honest with you. Full transparency. I don't think that ever really goes away because you need to be able to have some bit of caring about this, about what the other person is going to get out of this on the other side of the screen. So if you want to upskill in this, we do this once a month, and it's going to be the last one for the year is going to be November 25th. Again, you can just go to the YouTube channel here and see if you can join the Discord. Okay. We don't do this in December, so it's the last Tuesday of every month except for December. We're going on 2 years and we have a massive volume of success stories. And you get talks not only as an opportunity for you to present, but also me, someone like me, is going to present on topics either in cybersecurity or on public speaking to help upskill you into practicing. And one example is how I've actually taught people to generate a result right away, where you can jump in and have the entire time of the first presenter to present to prepare, and then after that it's go time for you. You're able to jump up and present. Well, how do you put together a talk that quickly? I've actually presented a talk on how to do that, and I've given resources. So if you need a hip pocket talk in case a conference like this, for example, they jump up and they discover, hey, a presenter didn't show up, can you fill some time? Are you able to say yes? And even if you don't have something, are you able to generate something off the fly that's going to be able to fill time and help still give and promote value, just like I would with my talk here today? So I want you to think about that as an opportunity for you to upskill, and we have that available for you. Now, in getting into the meat and taters of this, this is going to be an opportunity for you to ninja kick both the competition and the bad guys, at least in a capitalist market like where I am out of Detroit. It's an opportunity for you to step into the game and actually scoop up all the business, and then also fortify your expanding digital footprint. Now, a quick disclaimer, this may skyrocket your success, but what you choose to do with this information is entirely up to you, and you are directly responsible for the results you do or do not get from the actions that you do or do not take from this information. Now, back in the days of blogging before AI, and a lot of people are panicking and saying, oh, well, AI is showing up in search. Guess what? This has still stood the test of time, and there are companies still generating results, even though AI is showing up in search results. So, whether or not you think this is going to be a meaningful result for you, you are correct. Meanwhile, there are people that are benefiting from this that you're going to learn about today, and they're currently implementing this as we speak, and they've continued to do so and benefited from it as well. So, um, at the end of the day, there are people who are going to try and overcomplicate everything in the world, including search engine optimization or digital marketing in general. On the left-hand side here, you don't have to read all the nitty-gritty text. Just look at the image down below. You got somebody with all these high-tech whiz-bang, high-speed, low-drag action that they're implementing to try and be successful. Meanwhile, coming from the lens of ethical hacking, all you need is to be right once, and you're taking down a server. You're DOSing a network, which is a denial of service for those of you that aren't familiar with it. And what I'm trying to do is lean out this bit of information so that you understand everything that you need today from a too long didn't read a TLDR menu. And you can write these down, and I'll tell you exactly what they are, because these are the three things that I've done in the marketplace to outperform the competition using not much more than that. Okay. And you're going to be able to benefit from that too. So, at the end of the day, for people who aren't technical, sorry, it's a little blurry when you size this up. I apologize. Um, there are things that happen on the back end. Okay, a good example, especially for the business owners in the audience. If there's a port that's open in your computer, that's traffic opening that can move in and out, kind of like an airport or a ship port. Okay, and so if you have a port that's not used, go ahead and close it. Welcome to the world of cybersecurity. Okay, it's not rocket science. Just figure out how to get it done and make it happen, or hire somebody to do it, right? So, um, again, I've said that there's a lot of people that are going to try and distract you at the end of the day. I'm going to present to you something that's very simple, very lean for an approach. And there's a lot of people who think that they know better than me. I had a conversation recently with somebody who said, yeah, I understand what you're talking about. We don't need to have a conversation. I don't need to listen to you. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, what is your sample size for understanding how search engine optimization works? And he tried to flex on me. And he said 400 websites. I said, okay. And so he turned around on me. You ask a question, you're going to get an answer. My sample size is 1,000 times more than his. It's 400,000 websites across the World Wide Web in different markets and different regions, targeting different industries, different products and services. I think I have a better idea of what's going on if you're talking in terms of scientific sample size, especially from a cybersecurity practitioner. So I'm not here to flex on you guys. I'm here to let you know that this is data that I'm leveraging real time. And if not real time, it's pretty much within a week, because I have a repetitive mastermind that's very active. And what we see going on in the marketplace, we actually talk regularly and say, hey, something changed. Is it happening over here? It's something for you to think about. Why am I qualified to speak about this? Well, first off, I want to let you know that it takes a community to get to where you are. And if you see some names on here that you recognize, or if you don't recognize, it's fine. But I've either networked with these people or I've worked with them alongside them, either in a volunteer or professional capacity, or I've actually done work for them or with them. I want to let you know that I'm very excited to see the trajectory of my career. And these are meaningful, well to do, hard charging people in their own right and in their own disciplines. I'm very grateful for Michelle Khan, who is an up and coming individual in data privacy and OSINT, and the opportunities he's given me. It's been an absolute thrill. So if you see somebody's name on here that you recognize or you don't, these are genuine, down to earth, good hearted people that I highly recommend you actually take a look at and see what they're doing in the marketplace. Yes, I do have credentials for the people that are going to flex on me, or they're the audience lawyers that are like, well, what makes you so high and mighty in this? Okay. Yes, I do have certifications, but that doesn't mean that one certification is going to be the end all be all in order for you to have results. So I have never taken a certification that's opened a door single handedly. Okay. So results are coming soon. At the end of the day, I've also done a digital marketing agency. So I've actually practiced in this space. If you look on the right hand side here, this is proof that I've actually ranked my website to the top of Google map listing. And in a local space, that's exactly what you're looking for. Okay. So if somebody is not practicing what they preach, do you really want to work with them? As a matter of fact, as of July 30th last year, this is when I started putting together this talk for the first time. And this has been shopped around so much. A lot of people are very enthusiastic to hear about this information you're going to get today. And I've checked in my map listing, I'm actually number 3 in the map listing. Well, time out here. Chris, you're bragging about being able to get to the top of search results, and now you're number 3. What the hell is wrong with you? Why are we listening to you? Well, check this out. If you're in the space of cybersecurity or IT or anything tech, and you haven't touched something for about 7 or 8 years, would you agree that's a problem? I would say that's something that gives pause. Okay. However, I have not touched this digital web property for about 7 or 8 years, and I'm still in the top 3 of the market. I started at number 1, as you saw earlier. So maybe I have an idea of what I'm talking about if it still stood the test of time. You could argue that some of the people who are outperforming me, maybe I am a chump. Okay. Maybe in your eyes, you want to use this as an excuse to say, I'm not going to listen to this guy. I'm going to take a hike. And that's okay. You're not going to hurt my feelings at all. Whatever works for you, different strokes for different folks. But I think there's something to be said about not having touched this for 7, 8 years, and it still stood the test of time, and it's still in the top 3 of the map listing here. I think that's something impressive personally, but it's up to you to decide. Now, YouTube videos are hit and miss these days of whether or not they're showing up in search results. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. I'm going to use Google as a primary example because they're still the 800-pound gorilla. And a lot of tactics I've used that you're going to learn about today, I've actually used them to rank YouTube videos to the top of search and in search results in YouTube as well, which YouTube is a search engine. And I've outperformed one of the most expensive tools out there here. So as I go forward, I understand there's going to be different lenses or different bits of understanding. Go ahead and drop some questions in the chat. If we have time after, I'll go ahead and address those. But we're just going to go straight through. I have 190 slides for this little bit of time, but trust me, it's going to be action packed. So if you've never heard of the NIST cybersecurity framework, yes, I'm going from a lens of cybersecurity in this because we're talking about expanding the digital footprint and fortifying it. Okay. This is all in the tech space. I understand they've shifted to 2.0, but we're going to keep it simple with 1.0 and 5 elements here. Okay. Now, in the middle here, you see this fantastic looking cartoon thing called Boom. We're going to identify that as a cybersecurity incident or a data breach. And for the sake of this talk, the majority of it's going to be on the left-hand side here, where you identify and protect your assets and your resources in your company, namely your website that could be generating leads or results. And if it isn't generating leads and results, reach out to me because we need to have a conversation about what's going on with your online presence, whether it's your company or otherwise. And if it's doing something meaningful, good for you, keep going. If not, let's have a conversation, try to understand why. On the right-hand side, you're going to touch on this a little bit later in this presentation about detect, respond, recover. In the event of an incident happening, are you able to notice that it happened? And then what are you going to do about it? So the goals for today, we start on the left-hand side, and we're going to look at a mobile responsive website, content backlinks, and citations. If you know what these mean and you just want to leave and bail, cool. I respect you. You're not going to hurt my feelings at all. This is the TLDR. Okay. Content, backlinks, and citations. Write these down in your notes because we're going to touch on these as how to expand your digital footprint and then how to fortify these as well. And if you just want to go research this on your own, good on you. For the rest of you, go ahead and hang tight. We're going to jump in and we're going to go hard charging with this. Okay. The other side of this is from, again, the cybersecurity standpoint, we got business continuity. How are you going to continue in the event your website goes down or some digital assets are not working the way you want them to? Again, you need to do this in a methodical way. You can't flood the marketplace with a perfect avenue or stretch. It's just not going to work out well for you. And you'll see why when we get to talking about backlinks in modern day. And then there is some social engineering tactics that people are going to use to try and take down whatever work you've been doing to expand your digital footprint. Now, keep in mind, you need to have a mobile responsive website to look good on all these different devices to get more attention, requests for services and goods, and definitely more profits. And in a capitalist society, you do not need to apologize for being at the top of search and suppressing somebody else. This is just the name of the game. And then the other side is to make sure that you're covering all sectors of fire. Anybody that's trying to come at you, that's why companies spend a lot of money in security operation centers. They hire pen testers to test their assets and their resources that they have set up. Okay. So why should you care about this? Well, on the left-hand side here, you'll see that I've gotten multiple spots in Google search results for a single company that has resulted in over 169 calls for their company. For another industry, over 227 calls in a month. Or multiple form submissions. We'll blow this up here for a moment to say it's not just about the homepage or contact page. Okay, this is something for you to write down in conversion rate optimization. Do you have a contact form on the about page or the special offers page? This is something important to think about because this is proof that people are asking for services when they check out your company and say, "What are you all about?" Okay, now I vibe with you. Now I want to get a request in for services. Okay. Question: what about SEO metrics or tools? We'll get into a little bit of that. Can double as indicators of exposure or vulnerability. Again, we're going to talk about that. Okay. We're going to use something called Majestic and another one called Ahrefs. Both of them do have some cost, but there is a free tier or free resource you can utilize. Okay. So let's get started because at the end of the day, you're still talking about a digital online conversation. And yes, it is intended for a personal audience, but in search engine optimization, you're also talking with a computer. That computer is the first thing you need to convince that you are the authority. So let's jump into how we actually get you branded as the authority. So for those of you who are just tuning in, we're talking about search engine optimization. And I'd like to correlate your website or your online presence with real estate. So you have web hosting, which is the property that you're going to build your web property on. Sounds redundant, but you're building your website on web hosting. Okay. That's basically the grounding that you have here. And then your web address is actually your domain that you register at a registrar. Okay. And the simple art of SEO is taking your property or your online presence and moving it closer to the street or closer to the end of the street so you can be found first when somebody types something in. Now, I already know for those of you who are technical, SSL is kind of out of the game. We're using TLS, all right? But the reason I still use SSL is because when you secure your website, you get a valid certificate. It should marry up the letter S at the end of HTTP. So the full URL, http://www. You set up this security certificate, which ends up being a lock, as a lot of people like to perceive. The S and the S actually marry up, and a lot of business owners understand that. Oh, that makes sense, Chris. You're securing it. The S and S, it means it's secure. Got it. And so I just like business owners to be able to understand what I'm talking about. So going forward, I know it's TLS in modern day. We're saying SSL for the sake of this conversation. And on the back end, we do change things up. For example, port 80. When you're actually throwing this lock on here, you're going to shift from port 80 to port 443. There are technical things that go on the back end when you adjust things. I'm just being fully transparent about that. But you don't need to be that technical to understand that you're changing something for the better. So let's time travel back to 2010. I'm in the United States Marine Corps and I deployed to combat. There's my little ugly mug. And when I left, I actually got rid of a flip phone. For those of you who understand the transition about going into smartphones, okay? So I get back 9 months later, not because I was pregnant. It's because I was actually done with my deployment. I come back for service and, a little bit of rest and relaxation before we go pump again. And I come back to the first generation Droid from Verizon. Over in America, we have a Verizon wireless cell phone service. This basically took the flip phones and started making them obsolete and went on a semi-permanent to almost permanent vacation. 5 years later, this is why this is important. Google comes out with something that says this is mobile get in. What are we talking about? Well, they basically said you need to look good and be user friendly on all of these different internet accessible devices, not just tablet and cell phone, but also desktop and laptop now, right? Now, this affected over 40% of the richest companies in the world. They thought, you know what? We're the top players, Google. You're not going to take us down. And then they were no longer the top player. They started losing market share. That became a problem. They're like, oh, we should have listened, right? So you need to test your mobile responsive design. You can go to a tool, which is just easy to Google. It's all one word. It's Am I Responsive? Okay. This is a full URL, but just go and check this out. Am I Responsive? Put in the URL down here, and you're going to be able to get a nice little picture here if you're making reports. This is a nice little snippet you can get for them. All this was a snipping tool on Windows. Just copy and paste, throw it up there. This is my presentation slide. Congratulations. You're now official, right? So you need to have a mobile responsive website. Now we're shifting into content. When you do a search for just about anything, it could be elephants, whatever. In this case, it's Mike Tyson. What's the one thing that always shows up? It's Wikipedia. Why? Well, I just scrolled down and grabbed screenshots and I stopped at page 3 because I was running out of room. And you don't need to read all this. Just understand there's a lot of content branding this page as the authority on this boxer, Mike Tyson. So, stuff to a Google friendly site, this is Google's own words of what you want to give visitors, what they're asking you to give. And in Google's own words, they say provide high quality content on the pages of your website, especially your homepage. Google takes the time out of their day to take this a step further and says, this is the single most important thing to do. So, if Google is taking their time and saying, this is something you need to do, I highly recommend that you take the cue from them and probably start doing this on your website. So I found a guy who was trying to brand himself as the SEO guy or whatever on TikTok. And he started doing an audit of someone's website. And as he's scrolling through, he's like, yeah, looks good. Giving feedback. He bothered to say that this was a good thing to say, yep, looks good. Not a lot of content. We just talked about content being the single most important thing to do. Why would you tell somebody that? That is malpractice. Shame on him. And I'm saying that publicly. Yes, I'm not branding, I'm not identifying him, but shame on him. This is something you need to look out for and be on the alert if any chump is saying that this is something you need to be aware of. Now, I'm not saying flood your website and be have 10,000 more words than someone else. The game has changed, and you need to be more authoritative. And this is a good case study. Now, pool deck marketing is a search that you can do right now, and you're going to see my web property at the top of search. I actually landed a gig helping somebody because they saw my web property at the top of search, just like you're seeing right now. Go ahead and do a Google search. It should show up. Now, Google's been changing some things. This is not perfect, but I just checked last night getting ready for this talk. It's still at the top. And I checked with somebody over in Australia. It's still at the top as well. I'm letting you know this is not a perfect science, but feel free to check this on Google search. Basically, I practice what I preach. This is a mobile responsive website. I secured it. And this is about a 1,400 page or 1,400 word sales letter, long form sales letter. Okay. This is now at the top of search results. I think that's awesome. So tip number 2 is to have authoritative content on your page. Brand yourself the authority. A good example is if you're doing a roofing service or a roofing company that you're working for, you want to make sure that it's not just a large volume of content, but are you getting nitpicky and specific about this? Are you talking about an industry that certifies or licenses companies to do things? I don't have an example off the top of my head. Every industry or every country is different, but use this as a template. Be authoritative in your content and prove to Google search that you're the authority so they can climb you up search results so you can be first to be considered for your target market. Again, YouTube, I was able to use the same idea of content in the description. I think I got 5,000 characters, including spaces, and I still outperformed the competition doing the same idea. Again, YouTube videos are not exactly as prominent as they once were. Let me give you some bonus tips. Make sure you write these down. Okay, this purple part here that has a circle and the X next to it, this is what we call the page title. You want this to be a maximum of 55 characters or less, and also account for spaces, okay? 55 characters or less. If you don't do that, you run the risk of having this ellipses here at the end, these 3 dots as a run-on sentence. And people like me are going to assume that you didn't take the time to fill this out. You weren't responsible with this. So you might be reckless with this, or I don't know what you're doing, but I'm not going to trust you. And I don't know if other people will. Some people might. So, as an example, for a tree service company, you notice that there's no branding on the end of this. It's just targeting the locale and the service that you're actually offering. If there's not enough space for 55 characters or less to include your branding, don't. Don't do it. There's no need to do this. You don't need the ellipses because you want to try and brand yourself and flex on this. That is extraneous for you. You do not need to do that. Okay. Same thing with the page description. Now, the page description is no longer a ranking factor, but it's still for conversion optimization. You still want to convert people who are seeing that and saying, yeah, this is exactly the search result I'm looking for people who do read it. Some people don't. You wanted this to be 155 characters or less. Again, go and audit your company's online presence and check these things. If they're not in harmony with this, you might want to change it. Again, different strokes for different folks, up to you. So we talked about the content here. Now we're going to look at this other section of Google's own words. And you can see here, these are highlighted links. These are basically just backlinks that they're talking about, okay? You click on something and it's going to take you from the page that the link is actually on, these words that are clickable, over to another page on the World Wide Web. Page A, where you are, page B, where you're going to be taken to. Google interprets this whole situation as a vote, okay? Stay with me here. Google interprets, this is their own language, from page A to page B. Where you were, you click on a link, it takes you to the second page. You interpret this as a vote. Why does this matter? Well, in the old school days, this is going to get into a vulnerability later, so remember this. In the old school days, you had the opportunity to get the person with the most backlinks to the top of search. It was a wild, wild west of backlinking. Circa 2007 to 2013, I'm having trouble finding the patent, but basically Google got a patent. And it allowed them to start assigning topic relevancy and authority to all the different backlinks. Change the name of the game. Not all backlinks are determined as equal anymore. So you need to diversify your backlink portfolio. That's where we get into a tool that you can use one free search a day for called Majestic. You type in the domain.com here and you get a little dashboard that looks like this. You don't have to pay attention and try and capture this on the screen. We're going to go through a little bit of this, okay? We're going to start here with these circle numbers, okay? We don't need to get granular, just get surface level and understand what these are. We're going to start on the right here with something called citation flow. If you're doing backlinks, you're doing SEO, your company's doing search engine optimization. This metric is a score, okay? It's not a count. You don't have 37 backlinks here. It's a score of the volume of backlinks that you have in an assessment here, okay? It's assessing your link volume. And as you get more link volume, that number is going to go up. Well, how much trust you get on the left-hand side here out of all those backlinks, that's the number we're interested in, okay? Now, just accept that for later because we're going to understand how to divide that later and what you can assess your online presence for. So we scroll down past all these metrics and you get to something called anchor text. This is something you also need to diversify. We're going to zoom in on the section here. Do you see anything in common? Let me zoom in a little bit closer. You have domain.com, you have https:// no www. And then in the third one highlighted, you have www, which is a subdomain. What does this mean? Well, when you're actually going to get backlinks, you can actually assess or determine the nature of what you're actually going to have as clickable text. This is backlink anchor text. This is something that needs to be diversified as well. Well, if you see, you have some of these combinations displayed in this URL, but there are some people who don't display the www. And they've had successful ventures. My practice, my best practice that I've seen over the years, I just make it completely transparent for the Google algorithm, which is a computer, to understand what I'm linking here. So whether it's domain.com or HTTPS or www or all of that in combined, they are seeing that the full URL is marrying to your anchor text. Anchor text, item over here, marry together, common sense, you get maximum credit for it. Now, there are companies who don't do this, and somehow they're actually at the top of search. All I'm giving you is my flavor of branding, okay? The other thing I want to point out is down here at the bottom, you have different variations that some people actually have in their own online presence, about or about.html. And I've seen both of these patterns in different pages on their full online presence when I'm auditing it. You want to pick one of these, okay? So if you have the .html or .index or whatever it is, or you don't have that, whatever it is at the end, make that universal across your entire website. That's just my best practice that I'm pointing out here. Full web address, and whatever the pattern is, make it consistent. We're going on to the last item. So we talked about content and backlinks. Now we're going on to something called citations. We'll discuss what it is in a minute. But I think we can all agree as professionals, you see a chart like this where nothing is correct, things are either missing or the majority is, missing or incorrect, I think we can agree that is a problem. Um, we're looking at some tools here. That's how this relates to OSINT, okay? Um, so should this be fixed? I agree. So these are free platforms, okay? This is open source. You do not need to go and buy anything over here, okay? Now these different platforms right here, these are third parties. These are places where you can go get a business listing. We're going to talk about how this is a vulnerability in a moment. What is a local business citation? This is a company called Moz talking about this. Any online mention of a business's name, address, or phone number. Some people acronym that as a NAP. This can be found on local business directories, on websites and apps, and on social platforms. So again, you see a Facebook business page, Foursquare, so on and so forth, Yellow Pages, Yelp, Bing Maps, if you have that in your locale, Google Business Profile, the formerly Business Map listing. Now, you need to go through the process and claim each of these manually, and then you need to build out the page and submit it. This is going to trigger sales calls. Wherever your locale is, a lot of different countries have different places that you can go claim a business listing. This is going to help with your Google Map listing to climb to search results. We're getting over the SEO part in order to understand the vulnerabilities, okay? So you want to claim your business profile, and then you want to marry all that information to all of these different platforms, okay? And so this is not ideal. You do not want a chart to look like this. Well, actually, I audited Grant Cardone's online presence. I just grabbed his information from the Google Map listing and I checked this out. If somebody knows him, you might want to tell him he needs to fix this stuff. All right. I've tried. Nobody's cared about this. And he likes to brag about omnipresence. So maybe somebody can let him know what's going on. Okay. So we have content, backlinks, and citations. Do your citations. This is going to be a vulnerability sector here in a moment, even though these are all open source. You do not need to buy these. You should just go get the free ones. Okay. So now we've talked about content, backlinks, and citations on SEO. Now we're going to look back at how to fortify each of these. Okay. So roughly 2018, 2019, Google mandated the SSL security certificate. Prior to that, it was just an option. So when do you need to worry about SSL? That was that same article we just looked at. Well, your website takes text inputs from forums and login panels, contact forms, search bars. People in ethical hacking or cybersecurity, they understand that you have SQL injection or databases that are powering these, right? Also, is your website having that S? Well, it was added in 2018 as a mandate. Okay. So you can open source, go look at someone's online presence or even your competition for your business. Do they have the S over here? And even if they have the S, if it's not a valid certificate or it's not a recognized certificate, you could still be regarded as not secure by web browsers. If that is not there, if that is not present when you go to openly search on any web browser, what's going to happen? You're likely going to have your web traffic delivered to a web page that looks like this, which means people are not going to visit your website. They're not going to be able to consider your business, especially if they're looking to spend money. Again, have a valid security certificate, which happens at your web hosting. Again, if you don't have the valid certificate in the Google Map listing, you can actually get pulled from the map listing, your very own map listing that you've claimed, and you can no longer have the URL here. Now, there are some anomalies in some marketplaces. This is not a perfect science. This is an art of SEO, but I've seen this enough times to say you need to have a security certificate on there. Okay. So this is a website vulnerability. You don't need a tool to check this out. Just go visit the website. Try doing it on an incognito window if you have Google Chrome, for example. Okay. What can we do about this? Again, not trying to beat a dead horse, but I can't tell you how many companies are not doing this. So set up the SSL security certificate. Some platforms, it's just a one click. Sometimes they're going to give you some information to update DNS. I get it. For the cybersecurity folks, it's always DNS. So there's an opportunity for you to just adjust this very simply, especially with mobile get-in and the SSL security certificate update becoming a ranking factor now. Now we shift this over to the left side. Now it's dual purpose. Now it becomes a ranking factor. Now you have a mobile responsive website that you can check with an open source tool like Am I Responsive? Check by visiting the website if you have an SSL security certificate. The content is entirely open source. And then the backlinks, I gave you a free tool over at Majestic, and then also citations. Now, if we look at a website, again, we're using Grant Cardone as an example. You can do a right click, and down here, you can go to view page source. If I were to zoom in on this, maybe you can see a little bit more. We'll do a control find, and we're going to do /H1. Why am I doing this? Well, with the page title, you need to have the language in the page title. This is a bonus tip, by the way. The language in the page title, what you want to rank for, has to be explicitly mentioned in your H1 tag. A lot of people in design, they look at these H tags or header tags as design purposes, so they have multiple H1 tags. You're going to confuse Google search, okay? So if people jump into your website and they have access to this, all they need to do is add more H1 tags and they're going to jack with everything that your company spent money on. So you want to make sure that people cannot access your online presence and they can't start messing with this. Some people just want to jump in and delete everything and all the work that you did, but they know that you are smart and you're probably doing backups with your online presence. So make sure, let me go back to this presentation, make sure that you actually have the SSL security certificate, you're securing your online presence, okay? As we're going to talk about here with website vulnerabilities. Now, why is the WordPress a big deal? Notice I said the WordPress. Clearly, my grammar is rough today. WordPress still powers over 43% of the World Wide Web. So if there's an opportunity for you to actually adjust this URL for people to log into, then there's an opportunity for you to have security through obscurity. Now, here's what I mean. Again, putting on my United States Marine hat. If you're hiding behind a wall, then people who are shooting at you, okay, it's a small arms fire or paintball, if you go paintballing, the paintballs are not going to hit you because they're hitting the wall. But here's the catch: they can't see you, you can't see them. In concealment, you're no longer behind a wall, you're behind some shrub or shrubbery. So you are trying to hide and blend into the environment, but if somebody's going to shoot at you, there's a higher chance that you're actually going to hit with the paintball, okay? So tip number 2 is to make sure that you're having security through obscurity. And one of the best ways to do that is try and see if you can obscure that URL so people aren't jumping on your website and checking out what's going on, okay? So content vulnerabilities. You want to make sure that they're not accessing your online presence. Again, pool deck marketing. You want to be found at the top of search, and it didn't take me a lot of work to do. Now, writing websites or website content actually pays. It's a very lucrative skill. Okay. This is proof that people have paid me a lot of money to do this. In the middle here, in December 29th, you see it was almost $500 for a single web article. So, in moving forward with this login, you want to make sure that you're implementing where and when possible on all of your digital assets multi factor authentication. You also want to hide something called your directory listing. This is what the directory listing looks like. Unfortunately, you also have the ability for your directory listing to be indexed in Google search results. Feel bad for this guy because now he's cannon fodder for what we're actually talking about. Somebody might want to go notify this guy that he needs to take care of this. He wasn't answering my messages, and I really did the noble effort to try and let him know what's going on. So, again, cover versus concealment. If you can't cover it up, try and conceal it. So instead of having this index in Google search results, which you can always ask to have it pulled, okay, Google Index is nothing more than a deep card catalog in a digital format. If you've ever been to an old school library, you have those deep digital card catalogs. SEO is a simple art of taking your card and moving it closer to the top or closer to the front of the drawer. Well, if you want to hide this, if you want to hide these patterns, which I've actually sat and talked with ethical hackers, and they say, yes, this is a problem if it's displayed. It gives you patterns. Some people actually have usernames and passwords as files displayed in something like this. Not all the time, it's a lot more seldom, but it still exists in some situations. So you want to go to your native server that your website is on. Some people outsource it to third parties. Some people have it native. Some people have it on a cloud. You want to set something with this to off, okay? Just whether it's a trigger or it's language, whatever you need to do, find a way to hide your directory listing. And even though this was on Nginx here at the top that says Nginx, if you're using Apache, IIS, a lot of those common ones, think about what it actually takes to go and square that away. It should be easy to Google. If not, get with some of the people in cybersecurity and we'll see what we can do, right? There's a tool here called Built With. If you're not familiar with what's going on with your online presence, unfortunately, this tool might be able to identify it. You just put in the website here, click lookup, and now I have the web server that your website is on. I have the name server over here. I have a registrar. In some places, if you want to attack them as a pen tester or a bad actor, you could get their email hosting and have a better pattern of what you need to do. So hide your files and redirect them, even if you still are indexed in Google search, redirect them to something called a 403 forbidden page, which is usually default when you actually set something to off or you try to hide these manually. Okay. Again, we're talking about security through obscurity, so people can't even visit the login page to try and start pen testing it or hacking at it. Okay. So we're talking about the content vulnerabilities. We've already talked about a lot of money that people spend to try and leverage this to skyrocket your online presence. Okay. And I agree, the 403 can be bypassed. I'm just using this as illustrative patterns to say start somewhere. Okay. We're also talking about backlink vulnerabilities. So at the top, we looked at the charts. Now down here, we're looking at patterns and whether or not there's going to be a massive spike in this. So I said we're going to come back to these circles here, okay? So if you divide trust flow on the left by citation flow, just to review, the number on the right, citation flow, that's a assessment of how many backlinks you have coming to your website. Trust flow is the value that you get out of those. So if you divide trust flow by citation flow, you get a ratio. And you want that ratio to be closest to one as you possibly can get. You don't want one of these to be an outlier over the other. When you start, if you haven't done SEO before, chances are it's going to be off balance, but over time, you want this to get closer to a ratio. But if you put too many backlinks, if you flood too many backlinks to a website, like a lot of malicious people tend to do, remember they understand the old school ways, like 2003, 2004 timeframe of flooding backlinks to a company website. Some people actually generated software to try and get more backlinks than the competition, just auto generate these. And so if that happens to your website or you try to do it to your website or someone else's, you can risk inflating the citation flow. And now you divide this 17 by, and I'm over exaggerating here, 100. This now drops in a ratio further from one than where you want it to be. This is now an attack vector. And then you also have some people that are trying to do backlinking too perfectly. They want to have the best backlinks in the world and say we're not going to waste any money or spend any money on this. Like, yeah, they want to be like all tough cookie and stuff. Okay. At the end of the day, you do this too perfectly, you're going to skyrocket that trust flow, and Google's going to do one of two things. They're going to say, number one, you're too perfect. Whoa, what's going on here? And they're going to sandbox you and stick you on like page 10 where you're in spot 100 or something. And you're going to be stuck. You're either going to have to start over or you're going to have to start fixing this in some way, shape, or form. It's more work and headache than it's worth. Problem two is they're just going to say, you know what? You're gaming the system. You're out of here. And so a lot of people try to say, hey, all ships rise with the tide, or it's hard to do that if your website isn't even in the water, metaphorically speaking. So you want your website to be indexed in Google search. And if you're pulled from there, you just lost the game. You got to find a way to get indexed back in. And sometimes submitting your online presence back into the Google Webmaster Tools is not going to be enough. I think it's Google Search Console. You're welcome to try it, but I like things to happen organically. I like Google to crawl the website and consider it for indexing. And if it's too spammy, if you're doing things too perfectly, if you're flooding the web pages with content, it might be too spammy. Think about authoritative. Think about a diversified backlink portfolio. So what can we do? You can do a tool called Ahrefs. They do have a free version of this. They've been adjusting things in their online free version, but basically you just verify this by copying and pasting some code into your header text and then validating it here, and you should have access to this tool. You go over here to the left-hand side with referring domains, and on the right-hand side, it should give you an assessment of the domain ratings of all the backlinks that are coming to your website. Now, I think we can agree 0 is not doing much for you. But if you're starting out, these zeros can help obscure all the good that you're trying to manipulate in the system in order to rank to the top of search results. Welcome to the world of SEO. So what am I pointing out here? Okay, number one, zeros are not the best thing in the world, but if you're starting out, there's a purpose for them. Let them sit there for a little while. You can come back and disavow them later. The second thing I want to point out is if you're trying to target a locale, if you're trying to target people in your country, not necessarily internationally for customers, then you want backlinks that are native to your online presence. So if you're targeting people in the United States, for example, there's no reason to start getting backlinks over at India, over .com.au for Australia. There's no reason to do that. Stop getting backlinks from the world just because you want some authority coming in. There is a method to this madness, and you want to have backlinks that are local and specialized and specific to your online presence in your target market. Yes, you get charts going up and to the right to say, hey, we got more referring domains. Again, we're coming back to Majestic and saying, okay, there's more to this. So you get one free search, I think, daily on something like this. And now we get to look at these charts. These charts are going to identify, especially been in cybersecurity, whether or not you have a sharp spike and somebody trying to flood backlinks to your online presence. So we come down here to the lower left and you see deleted. Well, a flood of too many deleted backlinks at one time, that could be a red flag. Or if you have sharper spikes than what you see here in these charts are somewhat decent. They're somewhat pretty good. But if you have a sharp, jagged spike that's too high or too low, you're going to pause and be like, whoa, this might be a problem. Now you need to go look at the indexing of in one of these tools, which you may or may not have to pay for, and see, take a visit to those websites, see if they're spammy, see if they have foreign text that's different from the native language of the target audience you're going for. And I'm not saying they're bad in terms of like their native language, but if you have hiragana, kanji, Sanskrit, if you have Cyrillic, and you're not targeting an audience in those different countries, and you have Roman characters, like if you speak English or your target audience speaks English, you might want to adjust that. I'm just speaking truth here, trying to help you out. Okay. So we have backlink vulnerabilities and all those different spikes. And I'm converting this here because these citation locations, these citation listings, they also serve as a benefit for backlinkings. You might get backlinks here too, which, by the way, these are all open source opportunities for you to diversify your backlink portfolio with. At the end of the day, you're trying to build trust with these backlinks. Keep that in mind. And if you start messing with the backlinks or these citations, that could mess with your backlink portfolio. Now we transition to the final point of citations. Remember, these are third-party platforms, and they're trying to keep users on there and keep the users happy. So the users might engage with your online listing and then say, you know what? I think I saw that the phone number was changed. So I'm submitting a correction there. And they want to keep their users happy. So either they have an automated system that's just going to auto-correct it, or they're going to have a user that's going to come in, or an employee that's going to come in and say, you know what? Somebody submitted this. They want this to be correct. Maybe I'm too busy for this. Let's just go ahead and submit it because I got more important things to do. I'm not saying this happens to all companies, but people are going to people, right? The other side of this is an attack vector, because when I helped a tree service company, they weren't even on first page of Google search results when I started working with them, and they already started getting calls. Well, I got a Yelp listing and I got a Google business profile and a big map listing. They started getting calls. It was exciting. So I have a testament that this actually works for some industries. So you don't want to, especially if they're free, you don't want to disregard this, okay? But somebody can go social engineer this and call up, especially if it's a pandemic or if they've received a hurricane to their area and they've got some damage to the property and they can't really go in yet. Somebody who's in your competition that wants to scoop it all up, let's say you're a roofing company, they're going to call in and say, hey, so and so company that's a third party listing here. I know we have a listing here, but we're struggling. We're trying to close our company because the damage is too great for us to operate here. We're just going to walk away. But the paperwork isn't here yet, but we want our calls to stop. We want the people to get help right away. And if we're not servicing the calls, we don't want them calling us. Can you just list us as temporarily closed? And they say, okay, because they're trying to appease you and say, you know what? We want to make it easier for you to work with us. We want you to come back in the event you have another venture that you're going to start. But you're not the one who called. Someone else represented you and called you maliciously, or called on your behalf maliciously. So that's another attack vector. So what can we do about this? Well, here's what not to do, okay? Don't go getting this third-party tool, which some could be open source, some you could pay for. Don't go get one of these third-party tools and stare at it all day. Number one, it's probably not going to give you all of these different resources, which, by the way, state of the end, I'm going to give you a listing of over 500 of the best bang for your buck citation listings that you can take back to your company and start working on right away. But do not get one of these tools. It is going to be a distraction. You're going to sit and look at these things. It is going to waste your time colossally, and someone in your company is not going to be doing their job. Go be productive. Just check on these every now and then. Especially with this company, sometimes you're going to see a listing that's not found. Sometimes it's going to fall off. Sometimes you're going to have some inconsistencies or inaccuracies. Just go back and update it maybe once a quarter. If you really want to flex, maybe once every 6 months. Okay. This is more of an example of listings not being found and falling off. Again, where and when possible, you want to have multi-factor authentication. So what have we talked about? On the left-hand side, we have a mobile responsive website, SSL, obviously TLS, content backlinks and citations. I've given you some tools. And to elevate cyber resilience, you have website security, obviously security through obscurity. And then you have some backlink concerns with spiking and flooding and doing things too perfectly. And then also third-party resources of citations, which actually act as a vote to climb your map listing if you have that in your locale. And I want you to know that in closing here, and I'm stick around because I'm going to give you the benefits. The goal is and always has been to climb to the top of search results and get your phone ringing because the money is what brings in resources to help people in OSINT, people in cybersecurity, and so on and so forth to have revenue to do their job to help the company. And also, you can feed your family. I've done the same thing for a nonprofit. And when I built a case study about it, it was a YouTube video and it was an image covering that YouTube video as a thumbnail. I still got 1, 2, and 3 positions. Here's what's interesting about this. This little tool here told me how difficult it was to rank to the top of search results. It's one of the most competitive search phrases, amazingly. I didn't know that. I just put it in there as something common sense to me. So, business owners and C-suites, the people who control the purse strings, they also control the time to implementation. So, I want you to have a conversation with them about the things that you learned today. And my question to you is this: isn't it about time that you got started implementing these tools and this online presence assessment? Now, I'm going to give you some tools if you want to look at SEO poisoning. And you want to look at some competition here in your online presence. Stick around for those tools. But that's basically the end of my presentation. But wait, there's more. Free gift for you, and this is only for you attending live in the event this is recorded. I am actually going to close this out tomorrow night. The people who show up tomorrow, they're not going to have access to this. You showed up today live. I want to reward you for investing in yourself and your future. If you don't know where to start, if you don't know who to trust, or it's unclear what things are supposed to look like, I want you to go to this web address, bit.ly/35,000 feet special. And I want you to get some free resources here that I'm going to show you really quickly. This 35,000 feet special, this is what it looks like. You're going to have some tools here for governance, risk, and compliance. You're going to have a sample video if you want to teach people about cyber risk awareness. You have a video here for SEO fundamentals. It's a quick 15-minute overview that I use to teach paid digital advertising companies who wanted to market SEO but didn't want to do it themselves. It helps you to understand that in a lot less time than what I taught you today. Okay. You also have the nonprofit SEO video here if you want to see how I used it for a nonprofit organization. Mobile responsive tool. Am I responsive? Age check, because sometimes domain age is a factor. You have a word count tool. You can just do any old word counter. I did wordcounter.net, I think. Page readability. You want to have it easy to read by users, which means Google's also going to make it easy to read and marry what topic you're actually talking about. You have links here for the Majestic tool and Ahrefs. Again, both of these cost, but there is a free portion to it. One actually has a Google Chrome extension you can utilize. I think both of them do, actually. Down here for the citations, Moz reference, just in case you want to talk with the business owner about this. Citation audit, something I actually use, so you can do the assessment like what I did with Grant Cardone's. And then a citation listing. This is a spreadsheet you can click on to get over 500 of the best bang for your buck citation locations. Again, that's native to North America. If it's not going to work for you, see what you can get out of that, okay? There's a reason that listing is there. Some companies around the world can still get a citation listing there. You also have a backlink, a link checker or a web stack checker to see what's going on with built with. And then you also have 2 tools for web page speed, which loading speed is actually a factor as well. You have some tools here for virus total. So if you see some other website show up and they're trying to brand themselves like you or your brand, just copy the link. You don't have to go visit it. Use something called virus total. Come to this URL and click here. You'll get some assessment. And if they have all green, it's not to say that it's perfectly clean, but chances are pretty good because these are some powerful entities. A good example is Bitdefender. Okay. Another thing you can do is go to urlscan.io. urlscan.io, you can come to a URL scan, put the URL in here, and you can see what the homepage looks like. And if it's not loading, that's a problem. And you can check your own online presence or maybe a variation of somebody who's trying to brand themselves like you. Now, again, everybody's going to have different strokes for different folks. I use the musical note example that the reason ensembles can play together in musicianship is because they have a note and right smack dab in the middle is the downbeat. But some people who play in jazz, they play on the backbeat, or people who are marching or they have a driving force like hard rock music genre, they're going to be on the front end of the beat. Whichever it is, if you can fit in this pocket and move forward, you're off to a good start. Now, fitting in the pocket also makes sense for search engine optimization because you don't want to be too perfect. You just want to be slightly better than the people who are the top performers in the market. So do what the top performers in the market are going to do. Just do it slightly better than they do it. And I think you're going to have a lot of success. And you're going to be very appreciative of what is going on in the marketplace, especially with those results that you're going to get for your company. So that's the presentation. Let's see if we actually have some questions here. Um, Scrolling up as far as I can. What specific SEO metrics or tools like backlink audits, site crawlers, or domain visibility indices can double as indicators of exposure visibility? Well, we go back to Majestic and the metrics there, okay? If you have too many backlinks but not enough trust coming out of them, it's too offset, okay? You're just flooding a ton of backlinks. And if somebody maliciously tries to flood backlinks to your website, that could offset that citations. Remember citation flow versus trust flow over at Majestic? That's just one of them. There's a number of others, but that's just a good start. What methods do you recommend for continuously monitoring and auditing an organization's digital footprint at scale? Content, backlinks, and citations. There are other people that are going to argue with me. They're going to say, oh, you got to do image optimization. You got to do a schema markup. Guess what? Everything I've just told you today, I've outperformed some of the most competitive spaces like law firms or e-commerce, just using content, backlinks, and citations. A lot of them don't touch citations, so go do that. What methods do you recommend for continuously monitoring and auditing an organization's digital footprint at scale? I think we covered that. But basically, contents, backlinks, and citations. Use some of those tools on the free stuff that I gave you. Okay. Uh, does OSINT on image contain stenography, or image stenography is different from image OSINT? We're in the scope of SEO, but you can definitely check out some of the images that are on someone's website, but I highly recommend that you're careful on it. A few more here. Can organizations use negative SEO detection or brand monitoring tools as early warning systems for reputation or phishing attacks? It's up to you if you want to utilize those. I've never found value in it, mostly because you're doing backups. You should have automated regular backups going on. If you don't have them automated, manually do them. So if something happens, just reset it. Okay. If you have to use a backlink disavow tool on Google search, go do it. If you have to update the citations, go do it. But at the end of the day, you're just chipping away at this little by little. You really want to focus on expanding the digital footprint and just check on this. Don't hyper focus on it. Just go check on it. Okay. Um, how can smaller companies without large cybersecurity budgets realistically apply this SEO as a shield model? Well, we go back to security through obscurity. Okay, this is actually designed for small firms like tree service, roofing companies, the little mom and pop shop, a restaurant. Okay, little corner shop. You can still utilize this whether you're at scale or you're local and small. This is designed for everybody. Okay. Um, Scrolling through here, saying, "Are you interviewing him? Do you want to give him a job?" Well, feel free to look me up on LinkedIn. It's /in/reach Chris Young. That was my username. But make sure that you actually hit this URL here, bit.ly/35,000 feet special. We're respecting a very awesome gentleman who speaks internationally. His name is James McQuiggan. And he is often referenced as Mr. James McQuiggan at 35,000 feet because he travels a lot and he flies for a lot of places. Absolutely respect the guy. He gave me my first start in cybersecurity conference talks, and it's been a thrill ever since. Before this talk, they talked about something in GitHub. Yep. And talks are not related to each other, so you can start attending from any presentation. You can see the agenda at osintconference.com/agenda. So I want to say thank you very much. And I want to applaud everybody here for investing in your future, investing in your profession. And I'm very excited to see what you guys do with this, what you do with your future. Go ahead and share what you're up to on LinkedIn. Make sure that you're active on there and sharing, whether it's a home lab or you want to talk more about what you're fixing or what you've taken away from this talk or other talks on here. I want to make sure that you have a good experience. So with that, I want to say thank you very much. I applaud everybody. And yeah. Stay motivated. We'll see you guys. Have a good one.